Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II World at War with our PvP with SirTravis. It is June 7th, 1940. We are getting ready for the Siege of Malta, already starting on the ports and getting some anti-ship and anti-air defenses around there. We have a lot of stuff to do still. We've been looking through some stuff. We've filled up Germany's research queue, and hopefully I intend to keep it there. I've been doing some math, which I'm terrible at, so no promises I did it well. Assuming there's, say, 10 turns before we end up declaring war as Germany, we need to make sure that we don't get excessive with how many things we want to buy. We know that we cannot have more than 18 units within 10 hexes of Warsaw after January 1941, or it will mobilize the Soviets. So this marks 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So also over here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That means building up around here is not smart for these countries. Ideally, they just need to build up entirely around here to stay out of there. And the Germans can only put so many things any further than 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Potsdam included. So that is somewhat limiting. And it says 18 Axis units within 10 hexes. It doesn't specify if that's land or not, so that might also count ships for all I know. But we'll force march, say, the 14th Garrison West, send it over to Hamburg so it's just out of the way. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, just keep it out of the way for right now. It will probably end up replacing something in the west anyway. I'm just not focusing on that while we don't need to send certain things over. We're going to force march things based on importance. So the blue tanks, they're going to head east. The line breakers tanks, they're gonna head east. I'm going, ideally, to keep his mobilization to a minimum before I declare war, and open with only the strongest strike in the narrow corridor that I have negotiated by keeping the Baltics out of war. This will also involve sending every army, so the 1st Army will be force marching east as well. The 10th Army will be force marching east. The 8th Army, yes, we'll be force marching east. The 3rd Army will be force marching east. The 14th and 4th Armies will be doing the same, and some of them just have stuff in the way right now, which I could just, like, get some other things out of the way by saying, hey, you just stand on Luxembourg for the hell of it. And now we open up some space right here. And right here, actually, the paratroopers need to move. I don't really know what to do with the paratroopers. We could also just move another corps for right now. Let's just say you just head up towards Bremen and you'll just sit there for right now. The corps will upgrade over here. Armies are just going to head east, prioritize getting a position as soon as possible, because then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units ready for the front. If it counts air, which it probably does, then you have to consider air as well. Naturally, we can still move these units into position right before we declare war without mobilizing. I'm just trying to math out how many I send there initially. So it's only going to be the really important ones, like tanks, like armies, and maybe air. And the most important things that cost the most to operate. Everything else will be placed like just out of range, and will either force march up a couple turns before or operate in at literally the last second. Thinking roughly 10 turns, maybe up to 12 in advance. We are, hopefully not 12, I'm thinking more like 10 turns in advance. We're looking at planes being the things that are going to take the longest to build, with a turn delay of 7 months. Turn delay means added, by the way, so interpret that as being 7 plus 1, 8 months, meaning any planes that we want to have in the beginning of our campaign into the USSR essentially need to be ordered now or in the next turn. Right now, if a fighter can intercept / escort twice, then 1 fighter to 2 bombers is the most efficient way to do things in that regard, at least at the start, you know? And we have right now 3 fighters and 5 bombers. We have 3 tactical bombers and we have 2 medium bombers. And I think I'll use the medium bombers for land stuff this time, because I don't think they'll be needed navally. If they are, I will gladly shift things around. But I'm also going to end up getting the maritime as well. We don't need that as soon, though. We definitely need another tactical bomber, because then we can have 1 fighter with 2 tac bombers, 1 fighter with 2 tac bombers, 1 fighter with 2 medium bombers, no matter where they go. In addition, the miners will have access to fighters as well, which will keep needs here relatively not that big of a deal. So I'm gonna get a tactical bomber, SG-3, ground attack, naval weapon. I'll just pay for all of it because you never know where they're gonna end up. So I'll go ahead and take it, and we will purchase that. That is, how much was that? 330 MPPs right now. So we're down to 515 for this turn. And we're only making, I think right now, about 400 a turn. So that has to be included in the math of my projections. And just to show you, this is what we're actively having building right now. We're going to get another HQ, which will be invaluable. And in fact, I think we'll need one more than that, honestly. Especially now that we're going like even more unit heavy. And then we have only the tactical bombers is the only plane we're making, so it will be even 1-to-2 ratio. Okay, so I literally just mathed it all out, right? So right now we have 515 MPPs, okay? 515 right there. We're making about 400 a turn. This is underestimating, I think, a little bit, but about 400 a turn. So that's 4,000 over 10 turns. That's assuming we do an invasion roughly 2 months before a year from now, right? That's sometime in the spring. It might be 9, in fact. So that will explain why I've taken certain math things that I've taken. We have roughly then 4,515 MPPs to assign. So to get mobility on current tanks and armies, which I don't know if I'll actually do it for tanks, but I might, is roughly 300 MPPs. Roughly. Not exactly. And then just to take 2,000 MPPs and say over the next 10 turns, this is going to go into non-mobility upgrades, such as infantry weapons, such as better anti-air, such as researching new things, such as doing any diplomacy we might be called to do. Set aside roughly 2,000 MPPs for that. In addition, this counts reinforcing units that are injured and will become injured taking Malta. Cost to deploy an HQ with von Manstein fully upgraded, 525 MPPs currently. Cost to deploy one more fighter and one more attack bomber. We can only get one more attack bomber and a medium bomber for efficiency. So it's keeping that 1-to-2 ratio, about 1,000 MPPs. This left me with about 690 MPPs remaining. Can't forget the one arty for Finland and transport to Finland. That's 250 MPPs. Maybe even double this if I decide to send 2 arty. I don't really know how many I'm going to send, but I know they could use at least one to really hold on there, because if he decides to be aggressive in Finland, then one arty is like necessary just to hold their ground. To be offensive, if he reinforces it, that's leaning more towards 2 arty, but assuming only one, that means 440 MPPs would be remaining, so I just allocated that basically here, because there's a lot of surprise costs that can happen, there's fronts that can open up, and there's decisions that might change. This is a very air-heavy approach, and this only counts for purchasing things over the next 10 turns, doing things over the next 10 turns. So air would come first because it's so important. And then at some point, you know, the HQ and the arty, because those take about 4 turns each, and they have to be mixed with research and other things like that. The upgrades are instant fucking taneous, so we don't have to worry about that at all. We don't have to worry about buying new units for down here because we'll get Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and even Yugoslavia's units will be all ready to go. And that will really just be sufficient. Just need to get them any upgrades that we might want to give them. And then anything else that I want, such as rockets, can just come later once we've already prepared the invasion of the Soviet Union with this air-heavy approach and mobility-heavy approach. Now, I have intentionally overestimated the amount I will need for reinforcing and upgrades and whatnot, and I have intentionally slightly underestimated the MPPs that I expect to make every turn, meaning we may be able to buy more than this, which would be really handy if so, you know, in the next 10 turns, because I'm not getting to buy any fucking tanks with this setup, and I really wanted them. So when I realized that, I had to make a choice. What do I want to prioritize, tanks or air? I decided air, because air takes almost twice as long to build, and even though it's something he's more likely to prepare for, it's also something that is just so useful everywhere. Tanks can be made closer to the start and also later on and simply shipped in, you know, just later. Air, if I wait, we're gonna be fighting in there for almost a year before they arrive. Tanks can get there in less than half a year. Well, they can get to the front within half a year from being purchased. There's only 4 of them, and I'll be leaving myself 1 medium bomber and the maritime bomber and plenty of fighters to be assigned and made prioritized if I end up needing a lot of anti-naval stuff over here in this region, which, you know, hopefully I don't. Oh, but you know what I actually didn't consider in all that math is the fact that we are going to get Rommel. Rommel's going to deploy in that time. And Rommel is going to be relatively important, I might say. I might add. So that might have me hold back making von Manstein until I see that I really need him, especially because the fronts will be so thin and the HQs can support each other quite easily. But it means some other things. We'll have like an extra tank we can upgrade. There'll be extra this, extra that. Although I don't remember when Rommel happens. We'll get the Africa Corps in like 1940, or at least we'll get the decision for the Africa Corps in 1940. Yeah, and that's 500 MPPs at 100 turn for 4 or 5 turns, which this basically covers, plus a little bit of my overestimation. And it can make up for some things that I will lack. It'll give me an anti-tank, a recon, an arty, a tank unit, a fighter. A fighter? Oh, okay. And tactical bomber units. Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't consider that at all. Wow, okay, that changes the math, because that's one of the TAC bombers. So if I wanted one more TAC bomber, then, you know, that's already taken care of. I don't think I really need to make any medium bombers at all. I don't need to make the fighter either, because then it's just taken care of. Well, actually, no, I could still make 1 TAC bomber. Wait, oh god, this is weird. I'm making a TAC bomber right now. That will fill in with the rest of the fighters. I'm gonna get another tactical bomber for free. Then if I make the 1 more tactical bomber, then I've enabled an entire new tactical bomber squad, and we essentially have 3 TAC bomber squads. 3 that are with fighters. They each have 1 fighter, and that would be like perfect, in fact. And then we could just take out the medium bomber from the equation altogether, and that could help pay for the Africa Corps. The infantry would be okay, the anti-tank okay, recon okay. I could use that arty as well. I could just send that one to Finland instead, and it really would work. It's the only arty of its type. It's like a light arty. It's probably the worst arty that we can get anyway. So I could also kind of like delete this cost here and then say, you know, plus Africa Corps. And so we're back to like 690 MPPs again, because the Africa Corps will take care of that need for an arty. It will add a tank that I really, really want, some other things, and it will take care of a tactical bomber. So I actually only need 1 TAC bomber. You know, actually, no, we get rid of the fighter too, because we don't even need this. And so then this math just becomes wrong, and we're gonna have more like 800 to 1,000 MPPs left over. Okay, that's good, and that will leave me room to get some more garrisons. That will leave me room to get the rest of the anti-air, and maybe even an early rocket or some extra tanks, because there will still be the room to get 4 more tanks, literally doubling our tank force. We won't be able to do all of it, but we will intend to do as much of it as possible. I hope you enjoyed that adventure of res math and forgetting things, because I didn't. So I'm gonna make the 1 more tactical bomber, and yes, I'm still giving it naval weaponry, because again, it's gonna need it eventually. We don't know how soon it's gonna need it. So if we purchase the 1 more tactical bomber now, they will both be done, ready, and able to be put into position like perfectly on time, because I won't need any more fighters. I won't need anything else. It'll be perfect. So tactical bomber, Germany, purchase 185 MPPs remaining. And so everything remaining that I want to buy is actually something that would be made within like 4 turns or less. Well, a delay of 4 turns or less. I am 100% going to put a Japanese MPP back into the DEI this turn, bringing our chances back up to 20%. We're making a little more progress now that we're at 20% and not 15%, though given that we have roughly a year until the oil embargo kicks in, and we've only moved from like 30 to 50% in the course of like 8 months or so, I want to go from a 1/5 chance per turn to a 1/4 chance per turn. So we will definitely invest 1 more German MPP into this. So they've invested a grand total of 100. It's all they will ever need to invest into this. The rest of it's coming from Japan. And the amount Japan invests is not really going to change one way or another. We just have to get this done before the oil embargo happens. Otherwise, it's going to flip over, and then we're going to either lose all of our progress, or we're just going to lose the convoy route altogether. We don't want that to happen. We just want to get the DEI as soon as possible. Just in case, we'll also send these fighters down south. Don't really know how many we need or should have. I don't know if 1 HQ will be enough for all the planes we're sending, but we're going to send it down south because they don't all need to, you know, be elsewhere doing literally almost nothing. The lowland lurkers are going to lurk around in the lowlands, of course. I left enough MPPs, 135, to look at some reinforcements right now this turn. And some of the most important things I think are going to be like these tactical bombers right here. Medium bombers are going to be fairly important as well. And so that leaves me with 55 MPPs remaining. And so, I did not leave enough for subs this turn. We can get one of these subs back up to strength, either the Trapper or the Coast Guard sub. The Trapper would consume the rest of our MPPs this turn, so I'm going to go with that one just to get things nice and down to a happy little 8. Given what we know about how these turns will progress and the amounts and types of units that we have, I'm going to have to leave some things kind of away from here until the last minute. Honestly, if they're even needed at all. In my PvE, I diverted literally every fucking land unit I had to this, leaving France virtually undefended. I don't think I will do that, or that I will need to do that, at least not for right now. Some units really just don't need to be up here, and I don't want to mobilize the USSR by leaving a ton of units just in range of it. At 29% right now, and even though I plan on doing probably a slightly early invasion, you know, just the less MPPs they get, the better. I don't want to rely on paratroopers, so I'm going to march the paratroopers westwards, actually, at the moment, because I'm going to send the paratroopers just to, like, these spots just to chill out. We're not actually doing Operation Barbarossa, but if he ends up getting any kind of indication that we have paratroopers over here, then that's gonna scare him. I'll send one up to Antwerp, and I'll send 2 west for other ports when we're talking about cores, but realistically, these cores are going to upgrade and then trickle eastwards as I acquire things like garrisons and other things like that as well. Although I will prioritize garrisons for eastwards and save them until I need them. We're just going to take a lot of positions in places like that. Ideally, or obviously, we will need some cores in the east. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Munich is in a decent spot to leave a core that wants to get ready to mobilize over here really quickly. If we do get mobility on cores that we're sure are shifting east soon as possible, force marching would literally be a 1-turn process to get all the way to the front. So I will strategically position cores in that way as well. We're gonna want to get these subs in position for some raidings. Let's head over around up here and then past the Faroe Islands, and we've snuck over here pretty decently enough. The Catfish is capable of heading straight southeast. We're not gonna rush them into position because we know we can't raid if we rush them, so it's fine to just take their time, kind of circling in. As of right now, I want to say this appears to be clear, but with this in enemy hands, we can't actually go through it. So we'd go right past Southampton, where he definitely has things that are going to get in our way. You know, I just realized you could also hit these ports. Everything except Harwich is worth some MPPs. Interesting. So I'm probably just going to keep going up and around instead of through the strait. So then if we take the sub and just move it up along our little trade line here, we can follow in the footsteps of the U-32, get the U-37 moving out in the same direction. We'll get the Trapper going over, and then we'll like shift some south to take care of all this. The Italians are going to stay very in their own lane right now, and maybe for the long term, because again, I plan on doing a lot more naval stuff as Germany, just not right now. Right now, we're preparing to make Swiss cheese out of the USSR. If we dominate them pretty early on, then we won't need to invest as much into taking them out later. We'll get von Kukler moving east. One of the HQs can head east. Might as well get into some kind of position. We'll probably end up moving these cores out of range at some point once we start looking at other things like that. And I think I'll move also the Deutschland heavy cruiser. I'll move that over and just like pair it up buddy with the Admiral Grafs. Oh, that's within 10 as well, actually, so I don't know. Admiral Graf, just go up there for now. Because I want to not have a bunch of naval units here, because if this counts towards the total, I don't want to trigger it because of naval units. It's another good reason not to invest into the Navy yet, but instead after we've already started the Soviet stuff, because then we could finish up the Soviet stuff, assuming all goes well, while also then being prepared to take on the British Navy immediately after, assuming it stays a threat. For Italy, we've done most everything we're going to do, except for getting these Ariete tanks moving out of France. We're just going to force march them because they're in no rush to be anywhere right now. We're not pushing very heavily in this front, or even at all, until Malta's taken care of, because I don't want to fight the supply again, especially not against the player, especially not when 3 units is really all that I'm operating with. Right now in Japan, my biggest goal will be wiping out the first Chinese army, because it will help pave the road to Guilin, and it's an army. So we're going to take the maritime bombers here. Maybe just attack ones, honestly, and we give elite reinforcements to these ones. It would be a good time. Let's start with attack bombers and find out. Yeah, he still has no air anywhere nearby to even stop us from doing bombings like this. And this is not softened up enough to get an easy hit in, unfortunately. So we'll try with the maritime as well, since we don't have to worry about anyone intercepting us anyway. Just build up some more XP. His readiness morale are shot, but he still has that defense capability, unfortunately. Let's do the obligatory lashing out at his cores along the side here. We dealt 5 damage. We took none, which is nice. Dealt 3 damage, took none, which is very nice. Just as predicted. This one hit a little bit harder than predicted, I think. And this one only has like 5 supplies, so we can't actually build up really any further. This one has 7 supplies, so we can still reinforce, but we want to make him spend as many MPPs as possible. Now, here's where the fun stuff comes in. We want to hurt this no matter what we lose. So we're going to attack with the 11th Regional Army, dealing only 3 damage, causing it to retreat and actually losing nothing in the process. Okay, well, I don't know if that's like better or worse, but it's pretty good. So I'll move this army forward, the 13th Army, maybe? It's the only one that can really move any further forward. It would be nice to get some more elite reinforcements, but I'm not picky if we're trying to make progress here. So we're going to move the 13th Army forward down the road. That allows me to blitz attack a lot of things that we could deal damage to, but don't think we could actually kill anything easily but the 1st Army. So we're going to try to kill the 1st Army. There you go. With a blitz attack, we have shattered his army and we lost nothing. And we've officially kind of split these guys up. The mountain is there, and the mountain will be a problem, but not a huge problem. And we're still talking, we got like range of by default 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could reach Guilin. We could upgrade long range if we need to reach further than Guilin, but for now we can reach Guilin. So to make him freak out more, I am going to move the Korean army forward. I'm gonna move this core up. I'm gonna move this HQ forward. He's gonna see all this. This is in range. He's gonna freak the fuck out. I'm also gonna actually swap. I didn't think I'd get to do this turn. Swap the 21st Army in up here, so he's facing down with 2 armies. One of his cores isn't even fucking supplied correctly. Let's see if we could sneak in a little strike here. Dealt 2 damage, took none. Okay, just as predicted. Very good, very nice. Opening up a lot of opportunities here, and in fact, we can take this core now and how supply in this region, it's fucking terrible. But if I wanted to, I could move up. I feel like we need to shift an HQ even further south at this rate, like to Canton, to push supply from Canton. We were already shifting one south. 1, 2, 3, they could make it there. They could make it there, or at least nearby. So let's figure this out. We move this core up. Yep. And then we move this core, let's say, to take its place. And then the HQ cannot reach all the way down to Canton, unfortunately. And Canton is missing supply, unfortunately. It has 2 action points only due to lack of supply. Well, that sucks. But it is what it is. We'll move this core into the mountains as well. Just kind of push up that line. We'll move the Umezu HQ down south. And supply will be better over here now. Not perfect, but better. A little worse along the road, actually. But when we get onto Canton, we should push supply in a way that ends up being pretty beneficial. And then I'm tempted to move this HQ forward because we don't have enough HQ power down here. And we kind of probably want to fix that. And there's not a lot of option while I'm moving things to say replace a leader with a better one currently. We have 100 MPPs remaining for research as Japan that we can fit in there. Logistics is just an obvious. We're going to need tons of logistics. We're always using logistics as Japan. So that's our research field. We've already done our diplomacy chit. And now I believe we've essentially struck out everywhere that I'm going to strike out. We have 161 MPPs remaining. With our remaining 161 MPPs, I'm going to go ahead to Nanjing, and we're just going to purchase literally every single garrison that we can get, because these are never going to be affected by production tech, which we don't even have production tech yet. And so I figure we'll just get those at the price rather than Japanese ones that could fill in right here, and right here. And so we don't also need to rush this one, and it can just be kind of like a backup for now until we figure out more of where we will need it. And we shouldn't need it anytime soon based on the fact that we are now making 3 of them. There should be no need for garrisons next turn. Or really, there shouldn't be a need for them for a lot of turns. I'm going to reinforce this destroyer because we might as well give it a fighting chance, because it's going to have to leave. He might be leaving the sub here to try to ambush it on the way out, and then there's really nothing I can do about that. I can't get up to the Suez. He's pushing on Massawa first. This destroyer, I lost this last time. I'm probably going to lose it this time. Everything here is already dead to me. By not reinforcing this area, I've signed their death warrant, and I'm willing to accept that, as that is how this is going to go. And with that, our MPPs are spent. Our turn is done. Let's hit end turn. Spain is giving me access to one of their ports. Hell yeah. Oh my god, we just got a 20% buff here to the DEI. That's a big one. Wow. I'm not saying the extra MPP made this more likely, but technically speaking it did. So that's good. Japan advised prepare for war with the Allies. Victory over China will not be enough. Now is the time for start preparations for an all-out war with the British Empire and the USA. This war will be on a grand scale, requiring amphibious and naval operations throughout the Pacific, and the commitment of all the economic resources of our empire. Recommendation: direct more of our income towards preparing for this conflict. Do not concentrate solely on the war in China. We know this. We're good with this. It's fine. Made some tech research progress as well. Yeah, 409 in the best of circumstances with Germany, minus 25 because economic subsidy. That should make up for losing Swedish stuff roughly, almost, during the winter. But we also have a mine, I believe, that's recovering. So that income will go up. So about 400 a turn should be an accurate estimation in my math that I discussed earlier. And looks good to me. And until I guess that's our entire turn, so this is going to be passed back to Travis, but we're also out of time for this episode. So thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll continue this on the next one.